Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is County Executive Pat Ryan. I really appreciate you joining us today. As those of you who tuned in at 2 o'clock saw on our screen here, we spent the last approximately 9 minutes with other New Yorkers across the state, 20 million New Yorkers, in a moment, in our case, almost 9 minutes of silence to honor the tragic loss of life and murder of George Floyd almost 2 weeks ago now. I do just want to take a minute and thank everyone in Kingston and in Ulster County and those who came from elsewhere here last night, just a block or so from where I'm sitting at the county office building. We had somewhere between 1,500 and I think maybe probably closer to 3,000 individuals come and peacefully assemble, raise their voices, and ultimately make clear that we have fundamental inequalities, injustice, and racism in our country, that we have much work to do, and that we're just beginning that work, and we're beginning it by coming together as a community, all of us, to stand and ultimately also to kneel on Broadway in Kingston with thousands of my fellow neighbors and community members was something powerful beyond words. For those that were there, you felt that sense of community, of even in a horrible, tragic, heartbreaking moment, positivity and optimism that if we could have this many people come together and recognize what's broken and wrong, that we can channel that grief and anger and frustration into some real constructive change. So in the coming weeks and months, I look forward to working with all of you to implement both immediate actions and long-term reform that we know we need in this community and in this country. So again, just thank you to everyone who participated peacefully. Thank you to the law enforcement professionals who kept the protesters and marchers safe. I think that's a model that we set here that I hope the rest of the country can follow and that we can continue to follow. I also would be remiss if I just didn't thank and recognize the organizers of the event. Citizen Action and several other community groups organized it. It was an impressively run and organized and thoughtful event, and all of the speakers were just powerful and compelling. So again, thank you, and I believe it was a big success. And to transition to our discussion about COVID, I also appreciate that every single person there had a mask on and was doing their best to maintain distance, even as we, connected our spirits and our desires for change. We were able to keep relative distance, and everyone did have masks on. So thank you for following through on that. To update you on the more normal things that we talk about here, we will dive into the situation with COVID-19. And as we always do, we'll start with the data and with the numbers. The numbers continue to look very good, each day looking better and better. We are now at 1,748 total positive cases out of just shy of 18,000 residents that have been tested, for a percentage of 9.7% positive. So that number also continues to go down. Another piece of relative good news, this is the first 48-hour period in quite a while where we did not have an increase in our fatality number. So we are still at 77 fatalities, all, of course, tragic. But to actually finally see hopefully the end of that number going up permanently, but at least to see that in the last 48 hours is very encouraging. And we've had 1,158 residents recovered from COVID-19. In terms of hospitalizations, another good news story here. We are now at 7 hospitalized. We were just 2 days ago at 11 hospitalized. So that means 4 of those 11 that were fighting are recovered and now or at least closer to recovered and out of the hospital. And we still do have one individual in the ICU at the hospital here in Midtown Kingston. Active case number, we are down to 502 active cases. And again, that trend downward continues even as our testing goes up each day. So that is positive. And the graph that shows both our testing numbers as it compares to new positive numbers in the last 24 hours, which will be, you can see there on the far right of this graph, we tested 426 residents, and only 3 of those tested were COVID-19 positive. And that has been pretty consistent now, as you can see in the graph, for going on 2 weeks. Obviously, we are going to continue to monitor all of these data points, especially now that we are 9 days in to phase 1. We are a few days out from phase 2, which is on track for Tuesday, June 9th. The only thing that could change that would be a dramatic, and what I think right now would be a very unexpected spike of some kind in any of these metrics. But know that we're closely watching them, and that ultimately the things that we're all doing in terms of social distancing, masks, hand washing, and all those policies continue to be working as we're now well into phase 1 of reopen. Final update, which we really sort of hit on, but these are our hospital capacity numbers, another critical measure here for us. Right now, we're in very good shape. And as I said, 7 hospitalized in Ulster County beds right now. Shifting gears a little bit now from the public health aspect to our overall recovery efforts. And we've been talking about this for weeks now, but the overarching umbrella of everything we're doing to guide us out of the COVID crisis is our economic resilience plan, which really had 3 key components: recovery, reopening, and medium and long-term realignment of our economy to make it more equitable and growth-oriented, smart growth-oriented as we move forward. So we talked a little bit about our reopening efforts just a second ago. Those continue for all of our businesses out there. I hope by now that you have been able to work with our team or look at the state website to understand which phase you're in, to begin work or hopefully complete work on your business safety plan, to make that affirmation online and make sure that that's posted so that your employees and that your customers are confident and safe and can remain healthy as we reopen. For everybody in phase 2, you've got really 4 or 5 more days now to complete those business plans. We have seen some specific guidance coming out from the state about certain categories of businesses. Just to reiterate that, barbers and hair salons, which I know I join many of you in being excited that they are opening in phase 2, but they will have significant restrictions. So make sure that you're checking those out. Appointment only, testing requirements for barbers, and other constraints that will allow those businesses to open but do so safely because they remain a high-risk undertaking. And then in the last 24 hours, another important development that myself and other local leaders were pushing for, New York State approved outdoor dining. So restaurants that were concerned about the ability to maintain social distancing but get enough customers in that they can serve everyone who wants and that they can do so safely and that they can generate enough revenue to keep their businesses going and make them successful. They can now offer outdoor dining in a much easier way with some common sense limitations, of course, but that will really help to open those up more safely, to make customers also more comfortable that they're eating and dining in a more safe way. So that is good news as well. And we're working now, our economic development team, along with the Ulster County Chamber of Commerce that helped lead this effort to push for this, to work with all of our restaurants to get them the resources they need. So if you are a restaurant, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we're here to help you navigate that. So those are really the reopening components of our economic resilience plan. Most of what I want to talk about for the remainder of today are recovery efforts, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but one of the most urgent needs that we have been seeing and that we know will probably get worse as we continue with the economic impacts of COVID-19 is the urgent need for housing, and in particular for housing options, whether buying or renting, that our residents can actually afford. And we know this was a problem even before COVID. We know right now we have frontline workers who we've asked to risk their lives and have done so, who still cannot afford a decent place for them and their families to live. And as I've said before, it's not enough just to thank them with words. We have to take action. And I believe creating more opportunities for housing for our frontline workers and for all residents of the county who in 2020, it should be common sense that we can, if you're working and doing everything that you're asked, you should be able to afford good quality housing for you and your family. So we are going to continue with that work, and we have been continuing with that work. Last week, I actually was very pleased to sign 2 different pieces of legislation passed by our Ulster County legislature, and I thank them for passing this legislation and for partnering on this. Both pieces related to housing need in Ulster County. One called for the expansion of what is currently the City of Kingston Land Bank to look at being a county-wide entity, which would allow us to bring to bear the tool of a land bank and to help convert properties that aren't currently able to be on the market, to convert them to either go to the market or be used for housing for those in need. So I'm excited about that, and I thank the legislature for their partnership on that. The second piece of that was also the promotion of county-owned property and county-owned lands, that we should take a look at what county properties might we be able to use to also help us add to what we know is a ultimate shortage in housing inventory. And so we have begun that work, and I've asked our planning department and our economic development team to look at that. And then finally, we are commissioning a study with the legislature to examine the impact of COVID-19 on what was already a housing emergency, as I've said for really since I've been in office. And we anecdotally know that COVID-19 has added even more pressure, but we really want to understand at a granular level in the data what have the impacts been, how much more pressure is this putting on, what does it look like in the different towns and municipalities across the county, so that we can really respond appropriately and step up to this challenge that we must guarantee good, affordable housing for every resident, and in particular for our frontline workers. So again, along with the Ulster County Legislature, we've formed a housing advisory committee that will oversee these efforts. We're currently in the process of nominating individuals for that committee, and I'm very excited to work with my colleagues in the legislature, the members of that committee, and our whole team, and with the community to undertake all these different efforts towards improving our housing situation here in the county. I think there's a real opportunity coming out of this horrific crisis of COVID to up the urgency and to really bring even more speed and force, and to get everybody involved in this. So if you're interested in being part of these efforts, and I know there are many great groups out there already working on these issues, please connect in with us, and we're excited to work with you. The last thing I wanted to share on this front is details on one of the very specific programs that we've rolled out. I mentioned this about 2 weeks ago, and we wanted to publicly share all the specifics of one of the programs that we were able to get set up with some federal support as well. It's the Ulster County Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And really what this is about is trying to help relieve this immediate pressure that we know many of you and many families are under in the absence of income to be able to afford rent and to keep a roof over your and your family's head during this very challenging time. So we were able to repurpose significant funds from a different program and shift them to this rental assistance program. And basically the way it works is anyone in need can apply through June 12th. So it is a relatively tight window. Today is June 4th. That only gives about a week, unfortunately. So we really ask your help in pushing this out and raising awareness of this. We'll have a campaign to continue to raise awareness of this, but please help spread the word. You can request up to $3,000 per household for up to 3 months of rental payments. We expect that we will have more applications probably, unfortunately, than we can serve. So we will use a lottery system to choose among all those that apply, at least with the first tranche of funding. And that will be announced by the end of this month, by the end of June. The program will be run by our fantastic partners at RUPCO, who have a proven record in, as many of you know, in bringing affordable housing to all kinds of families and folks across our community, homeowners and renters. So we're excited and appreciate their partnership. If you want more information, the number to get in touch with RUPCO, who will be administering the program, is right at the bottom of this slide here. It is 845-331-9860. And if you need the specific extension, or I'm sure they can also direct you, but the specific extension is 227. So you can call that number and just say that you'd like to apply for the Ulster County Emergency Rental Assistance Program. They will get you the information. It's a relatively straightforward application. And remember that you've got just about a week to do that, at least for this first round of funding. So I'm really pleased to provide this support. Again, we've been meeting the urgent food need with Project Resilience and continue to do so, and we're doing everything we can to meet this urgent housing need as part of our overall recovery efforts in the county. As we do all of these things and as we shift and get close to phase 2 and going into the weekend, another almost summer, but not quite summer. We're still in spring. Another beautiful spring weekend. I do want to remind everyone of the importance, even more so now, even more so every day as we open up, of wearing masks, of maintaining social distancing, of washing hands and using hand sanitizer, figuring out how to make sure in your daily routines that these are part of those daily routines. We recognize at this point, I think, that each of our individual actions absolutely has an impact on others. And so these are pretty small, relatively easy steps that each of us can take. And we continue our efforts as a county and as a community. I know the towns and city of Kingston are involved in this as well, distributing masks. If you are in need of a masks or PPE, you can call our COVID-19 hotline, which we'll share at the end. If you have any needs related to COVID-19, you can call our Ulster County COVID-19 hotline Monday through Saturday, and that is 845-443-8888. And I definitely will never probably forget that phone number. That and my home phone number from growing up are like wired into my brain now. Final update, we talked about, I mentioned Project Resilience. We have now served and delivered just shy of 225,000 meals. Let that number sink in. 224,024 meals delivered and provided to residents across the county just in the last basically 2 months. And I'm so proud of what we've done through this project. I'm so thankful to everyone that has contributed, whether that's financially or as a volunteer. We are keeping the project going, and it's been great to hear the stories as we've been helping people transition to phase 2, to get access through community food banks, through other programs. We're working with every single resident in need to do that transition. If you're having problems with that or you have need, you can call our COVID-19 hotline, and they can talk you through that process as well. But we're going to keep Resilience food deliveries going as long as we possibly can. I think it's one of the great successes of our community coming out of this crisis. Again, as we close, we'll close with a series of thank yous. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. Thank you again to, I think, probably between 2,000 and 3,000 of you who joined in peaceful assembly and protest last night. Thank you to all of our frontline workers still out there, still putting themselves at risk for all of us. We have some plans in store coming up to honor you specifically, and we'll be rolling those out in the next week or so, and excited to give you more details on that. And again, just my thanks to every single resident of our county that have risen to the occasion, that have navigated and dealt with very difficult circumstances to really show our resilience through this crisis, to show our sense of community and connectivity. And so I appreciate you, and I know the whole team here does for sure. So as we wrap up, thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe, continue to be resilient as we navigate through this and into phase 2. And our next update will be on Tuesday, which will be June 9th, which will be the first day we believe and hope for phase 2 reopening. So we'll have a lot of significant updates for you then. In the meantime, you can reach out, and we will see you then. Thanks.